Добрый вечер, уважаемые телезрители. Рад вас приветствовать в здании центрального офиса Таймс Reuters. Прямо находимся в центре Нью-Йорка, центр финансовой столицы Нью-Йорка, Таймс Сквер. Прямо за мной прямо находится новогодний шар, который каждый год спускается под крики миллионов приезжающих сюда со всех концов Соединенных Штатов и из-за рубежа. Сегодня мы на прекрасном мероприятии. Таймс Reuters — это компания, которая выступает спонсором сегодняшнего мероприятия. Выпущена новая книга. Здесь будут авторы книги, обсуждения политических деятелей Соединенных Штатов за последние несколько лет, их влияние на внутреннюю и внешнюю политику Соединенных Штатов. Вообще, должен сказать, великолепное место, великолепная компания. Я здесь с удовольствием, в общем-то, посещаю их мероприятия долгие годы уже. Тони Блэр, бывший президент, бывший премьер-министр Великобритании здесь был. Президент Колумбии выступал прямо перед полетом в Европу, в Стокгольм на получение Нобелевской премии. Буквально несколько месяцев назад здесь был председатель председатель Банка Федерального резерва Великобритании, который здесь, опять-таки, свою новую книгу пропагандировал, подписывал книги, фотографировался с посетителями. Самая разнообразная публика. Финансовые консультанты, бизнесмены, местные политиканы. Все с удовольствием посещают, делятся мнениями и слушают, в общем-то, мнения других. I will be on TV, and they already broke my arm. That's where the people make money. Say it again? All of the above. All of the above. What about commodity talent? Wonderful.
Well, welcome to the Tаймс Reuters, the special newsmaker on American leadership, presidents, good, bad, and indifferent. My name is Arthur Rassius, and I'm the managing director for the Americas for the Tаймс Reuters Financial and Risk Business. As you may know, newsmakers are discussion forums that bring together top global experts, political leaders, and CEOs in conversation with senior Reuters journalists. We are delighted to have you here with us for this important discussion. On the heels of Trump's first 100 days, this evening we'll tack away from the headlines to focus on previous presidencies and the historical precedent that has led us to this political moment. Sometimes, in order to fully appreciate the news of the day, a little perspective is in order. And there's nobody better than Reuters editor-at-large and author of The American Century, Sir Harry Evans, to bring that to us and introduce our panel of distinguished scholars and form a discussion tonight. At the conclusion, I know Sir Harry will be open to having a live dialogue and discussion with the audience. Thank you.
If they behave themselves, okay. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for the snap at the beginning. That's the beginning of the present presidency. We don't get everything right straight away. But we'll improve a bit. John Free, author of Nixon, which I do recommend. It's absolutely fantastic and wonderful book. David Gerber, occasionally plays. Was it radio or television you were on? I forgot. And David Gerber, thank you, David, whom I've known for many years. We were together in Washington. And he, 4 presidents. He said, was it 4 or was it increased? He said 3.5. Okay. Amity Slade, who also the wonderful book, Coolidge, and Richard Norton Smith, who we know together through Jerry Ford. And Richard is presently writing a book on Jerry Ford. I want to begin by asking this group of distinguished historians, and it's so wonderful to have them, what would you say was the most important characteristic you look for in a president? Is it modesty, courage, intellect, daring? What is it you're looking for? If there's a vision, you could express it. I don't want you to write a biography now. I'm just trying to establish who you are and what you think is the defining characteristic of a great president. Start with John.
I would say cunning.
Cunning.
Thank you. James McGregor burned the lion and the fox, and I would say the fox part is the most important.
David?
Well, Churchill always thought that courage was the most important quality of leaders, including presidents, and he put Truman in that category. But David McCullough, I think, was more on the mark in his Truman biography when he said the most important quality for a president is character.
Character. It's the nature of the character I'm after, really, amity.
The most important characteristic in the president is a sense of service and humility before the office and his task, or her task, and to avoid falling into personal activity and personal vendetta.
And I would add to that a particular greatest humility, and that is the ability to learn from one's mistakes, without which it is impossible to grow in office, something that Americans assume is part of our civic religion. The mere act of taking the oath of office begins this process of growth. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but it can't happen if a president is unable to acknowledge to himself and to others a mistake and to learn from that.
Okay, that's fine. I want to start with the portrait, which is in the office of number 45, because we can dispense with that, then we could move closer to our time. And the portrait, everybody knows what portrait is in number 45's office. Yes. Andrew Jackson. Thank you, sir. You get a chocolate bar on later. Okay, so what do we have in Andrew Jackson? None of the cast any aspersions on number 45. You can draw your own conclusion. Number 45, as I say, has this portrait. Andrew Jackson, amity. You've written a great biography on Coolidge, who was regarded as the acme of right-wing conservatism. Many descriptions could be given, but there's certainly a brilliant insight into that mind and attitude of a very different person. Where do Andrew Jackson, in the development of American democracy, since it's the paradox that he's regarded as a great Democrat, and yet at the same time he hated blacks, he hated women, he hated Indians, he hated a lot of people, particularly the abolitionists. So where do you place Andrew Jackson, and how can you relate it without being too risky to the present incumbent?
Andrew Jackson was a populist who shot from the hip, actually, literally, because he did duel as a young man. And so he would go from impulse to impulse. For example, supporting ending the central bank of the United States, or waging his various small and bigger wars, or turning against people. That relates to what I said about vendettas. A great part of his presidency was devoted to defending the honor of a lady, because the honor of his wife, Rachel, had not been sufficiently defended, he felt. So he led with his hurt, if you know what I mean, and that sort of curtailed his presidency at the end. But he was a classic populist.
So was he a Democrat?
Yes, he was.
I mean, in the lowercase d. How can you be a Democrat and not care for equality of opportunity, equality of education, and so on and so on? Or am I making the usual mistake of not placing him in the circumstances of his time? You're going to jump in a minute, and I've got to restrain this man. He's too heavy. Right.
He was a Democrat, and it went on. First, it was the regular people who were not aristocratic, like the Adams family, which preceded him. Those were he was populist Democrat for them. He didn't get all the way to women and slaves. But the impulse of broadening the constituency and moving away from the elites, that was Jackson, and that is the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm. John?
What I find interesting about Jackson and the current up and down he's undergoing is how historians seem to use the pressing issue of their time to go back and rate presidents' performance as much as a century ago. So right before the New Deal, when Wall Street was crumbling, Andrew Jackson was idolized by Arthur Schlesinger and others.
He was very much so.
As a great populist. Now, as we see things increasingly through the prism of race, Andrew Jackson is plummeting, and you see other presidents who had problematic foreign policy, like Lyndon Johnson soaring up into the top 10 because he did such a good job on it.
That's changed a lot, David.
Well, I think John's absolutely right. It's called presentism, and that is judging people through the lens of the present. And for a long, long time, Andrew Jackson was celebrated by the Democratic Party. He was Harry Truman's favorite president. The book that Truman dictated about American history has wonderful chapters about Andrew Jackson and the Democratic Party. For years, you'll recall that the major celebration of the Democratic Party is the Jefferson-Jackson Day dinner. And those two are linked in the Democratic Party as sort of founders of the party. They no longer have Jefferson-Jackson dinners in most parts of the country because the reputation has shifted so much, first on Native Americans and second on slavery, and which has caused so much of the backlash against President Trump over the last 48 hours, because we can go on to that, but nonetheless, the historians have been sort of whiplashing.
If they listened to Andrew Jackson, would there be no Civil War? I'm sorry, that came out of somewhere. I don't know what it is.
Well, there would have been no Civil War, but there would have been an extension of slavery.
Yes.
And slavery would have persisted much, much longer than it did, because Jackson would have opposed. I mean, he would have supported, the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which got Lincoln back into politics.
Do you agree with that, Richard?
Yeah, Jackson matters because he changed the political weather. He changed the national conversation. And he drastically, by means that in those days were certainly warranted the title Democratic, increased the number of people participating in the process. Between 1824, when he lost the disputed election to John Quincy Adams, in 1828,